Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between, I am OverHugs, and I'd like to welcome you back to Building Bread. Thanks for choosing to join us on the adventure today. Today, we are heading into the Nether and to our gold farm. And the reason that we're doing this is it is about time for us to get some bartering done. We have a number of projects. Oh, let's not run into the floor. That would be bad. We have a number of projects that are coming up that are going to require some of the materials that we get from bartering, particularly gravel. While we can go out and we can mine gravel, I don't like doing that, as you may have noticed from, I don't know, every episode that I've made so far. So what we're going to do here is go out to the gold farm that we did a few episodes back and convert it to also be a bartering station. And the reason that we want to do this is you can get an enormous amount of items from bartering with piglins. And what do piglins take? If you have not been here for a previous episode, this is a piglin. This is the unzombified version of what you get from the gold farm that is now falling from the sky, since our gold farm is relatively productive. So piglins will take gold and they will trade. And let's run over here and grab a couple of bars, because this is a productive farm. Just a few. Not going to trade this many, don't worry. And if we go and give the piglin rockets? No, they don't want rockets. What are you doing? If you give them gold, and this is easiest if we just up under here, and let's just give him a bunch of gold, and you see that he'll get excited, he'll pick it up, and then after 6 seconds, he'll throw something to trade with you. And they'll do this as many times as you give them gold. So it's a 6-second delay in between when they pick up an item and when they drop off the item. So this tells us that it's something that can be relatively easily timed. There also is no limit of the number of items that you can trade as long as you have gold. As you can see, he's just happily picking stuff up, staring at it, being a happy, shiny person, and then giving us stuff. And there's some of the gravel that we were looking for. The number of items that will trade is dependent on your version and what they are exactly. There's 18 different things they can get, depending on the version that you have. We're currently running this world in 1.16.1, where the most recent version is 1.16.4, and we will upgrade relatively soon. But depending on what version you are, there's a couple of things that are different, and I'll put it on the screen now. So, why is this so valuable and powerful? Let's pick up the items that he's been trading, and then you can take a look at my inventory. And we got all of this purely from bartering. So basically, a bunch of gravel that we didn't have to mine. Obsidian, crying obsidian. We don't really need ender pearls because we have an infinite source of those from the ender already. But noob juice is always nice, as is hide, and as is quartz. So all of these things are items that you can get just by throwing gold at these piglins. Now, what we're going to have to do, and this presents some unique challenges because it's in the Nether, is build a bartering farm. And part of the problem here is that because we're in the Nether, we don't have any water. We can't make our normal item sorters that we would do with a water circulator that would just take care of it. However, what we can do is we can use ice. Ice of the packed or of the blue variety will not melt in the Nether. And the wonderful thing about this is you can use pistons and ice to basically create an item sorter that can handle the amount of items that we'd have here. We could use hoppers for this, but if you look at some of the items that they're doing, like, we're getting a half a stack or almost a full stack of nether bricks. Like, let me get rid of some of the stuff we don't care about, and I'll run in here and pick stuff up again. And let's see what we've gotten just from the time we've been trading. Like, it's a lot. We're at a stack of bricks, a half a stack of quartz. We've already gotten a full stack of pearls because I threw out the rest. Unstackable items like these soul speed boots, and also all of these potions. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to sort here in order to make sense of all this, and in order to get the things we really want, and make sure that we're not throwing away or destroying things that we want in favor of things that are gumming up the system. So step one here is to get our piglins. There's a number of ways you could do it, some of which are faster. For example, if we wanted to blow a hole through the bedrock and then worry about getting them up through the elevator. But quite frankly, all we're going to do is take the easy road and knock out all these torches, so that we can have a spawnable location where the piglins can spawn, and then we can encourage them through gold to get into these kind of little containment areas. But first off, before we do that, we want to build up the area, because we need to make sure that we have not only a place to put them, but once we get them in their container chambers, we can't exactly knock out the bottom and replace it with hoppers. So it's got to be taken care of before we do that. And so, as per usual, why don't we take a super speed potion and get into a time lapse. All right, now that we're done with this build, let's head in here and take a look at what we've got. I had decided that I wanted to do this out of glass specifically to cut down on the spawning, and because I wanted to show off a little bit in shaders, because I think that looks really cool when you walk up and approach it. So a little bit of eye candy, and I'm not sorry. So this is what we ended up with for our bartering farm, and you can see all the things here that we can collect and we choose to. There's a couple of things that you may notice that are not here that we can collect, such as ender pearls and iron nuggets. We have farms that are far better than anything we get from here for those specific things, so I just throw them away. And what we also have here is something new, and this is a single item sorter, meaning it's an unstackable item detector. And so if you look in these chests, the only thing that are here are items that will not stack. So this is how we separate the things that we want to keep, such as the potions and the boots and the soul speed and all that stuff, from the things we don't, like the ender pearls and the iron nuggets. It also serves as overflow. Anytime that anything comes in here where the system is completely full, it will be disposed of, and eventually that will be lava. I haven't run this enough yet where I'm 100% confident that I'm sorting everything appropriately, so I haven't filled it yet. But eventually it will be. Or if the whole system starts gumming up, anything that's not caught by the previous item filters will just be deleted by the cactus here. And that's a trick that you can use. Anything that hits a cactus will either automatically dispose of it if it's in item form, or it will break it if it's not. For example, what you'll see in a minute is how I use this in order to deal with minecarts, to make a completely closed system that recycles minecarts. But that's about 5 minutes from now. So let's walk over here and take a look at what we've got. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start at the beginning, and we're going to come over here and we're going to grab some gold out of our chest here, where I've converted all of the nuggets that we had to ingots and then to blocks. So let's go and convert this block into ingots. And what we have here is a chest with a minecart, and we can just put everything in that. And then once we hit this button, this will zip up to the top and fill all of the hoppers that are feeding the piglins so that they can do the bartering. So let's hit that, and we'll chase it up. And here we go. And you can see what our unloader is doing. And there's another piece of redstone here that we have not seen before. where if we come over here, what we're doing is we're taking a detector rail, and this is reading the signal out of this minecart with a chest, and anytime it is not empty, meaning that it returns any signal at all, I'm doing this to this comparator clock, and this is a simple decay clock. What this does is it takes a certain amount of time for the signal to keep going around and around before it drops to 0, and it's continuously being refreshed by the detector rail. Once it's refreshed, it goes over to this sticky piston, which pushes this piece of blackstone over the rail, causing it to just bounce back and forth. When this is empty, it will pull back, and there's a slime block with a piece of rail on, which will then complete the track and allow this chest to go all the way back to the beginning where we can reload it. So this keeps it pretty efficient because, as you can see, it's just bouncing back and forth, filling the hoppers that are here, which then fill the droppers that are underneath it if we drop down here. So the rail goes over the hopper, which then goes over a dropper, which takes the gold, and with this very simple etho hopper clock, which is set on about 6 seconds, it will go, and when we don't block the cart, what it will do is it will enable the piglins to receive gold. And as you can see, right after they drop it, another ingot comes out. And so basically we've got a continuous trading thing going on where they're just always being refreshed with new items. As you saw in the time lapse, this one snuck out on me. One of the things that really annoys me about Minecraft is if you break something that's in a hopper minecart and it isn't completely encapsulated all the way around, it can sneak out the corner. And that's what happened. This piglin snuck out the corner and got away. And after building this whole thing up, I wasn't putting him back in, so we'll deal with 5 piglins. I think it'll be okay. So after that's done, when we hop down here, what we're doing down here is we have these 2 droppers. So basically all of the hoppers that the piglins are standing on lead into these 2 droppers. And we're using a cobweb to catch all the items and consolidate them. And that's a trick you've seen us do before. Those items that seem like they're flying off into space there, we just saw one, that's actually not happening. That's just an artifact of the items coming down, and before the game catches up with it, the slime block is punting it. And so it makes it look like it goes flying, but if we go over here and we turn on bounding boxes, you can see there are no items. So it's not actually being punted, it's just an error in the game, and that's okay. So after it goes, what happens is we drop all the items and the cobweb collects them down to this one space over here so that they either land on the slime block or they land right in front of it. And when the slime block retracts, it will drop the items and then punt them forward. We're using this chest to align it because a chest is slightly less than a full block. So what happens is it will actually skate on the edge of the ice, but it's on the same line where the hoppers will pick it up. And this is how you can move items within the nether, and that's some really weird errors. Like, items look like they're flying all over the place, but everything is making its way down here. If we come down, you can actually see that items will be flung down, and they'll get caught in the appropriate hopper where they disappear. So that's the entirety of this system, and this is how I deal with a large amount of items within the nether itself. You could make this ice completely circular and contained like we have with other systems. And in order to do that, you would just need another chest down here with another sticky piston and slime block and just make it continuously go around and around and around. And that would be fine. You could circulate that permanently. But we don't need to do that because we have not had enough items in order to do this. So we did a typical sorter, item sorter up at the top, which you've seen me craft a bunch of times, and if you haven't, check out the card at the top of the screen, and you can see how much of each thing we've gotten. We have almost a full row of obsidian, almost 2 rows of crying obsidian, more leather than we're probably ever going to need. The magma cream was removed in 1.16.2, as was the glowstone, and it was replaced with blackstone and spectral arrows respectively. So this is only really here as a placeholder. We have more than enough magma cream for our magma cube farm anyway. So I don't really care. Fire charges, glowstone, which we already talked about, soul sand, which I don't know why we'll ever need that much, more nether quartz than we'll ever need. The gravel is definitely something I wanted, and you can see how much gravel this produces. So this will take care of our concrete needs for a bit until we make a concrete maker, but that's another episode. String, which again we don't really need because we can get that from our general mob farm, and nether bricks, which would have been great to have a while ago when I really needed them. This is just overflow, and it's a collector in case some of the gold slips through. Sometimes what happens is the piglins get jammed up, and I'd rather save the gold, especially since it costs me just a hopper on that chain in order to deal with it. So that's why that's here. And then down here is the unstackable item detector. And the way that this works is what it will do is it will detect, because of the signal strength, any item that is unstackable will give out a signal strength of 3. And that will be enough in order to go and unlock the hopper that is below this. This is exactly the same thing as a slice of the item filter that we built up here. So if you've built one of those before, you know exactly what this looks like. It's not anything I have to go through. But because of that, we can move only the unstackable items into these chests, which will give us enough noob juice and more than enough books of soul speed to basically to deal with a multiplayer server. So if you're on a multiplayer server, you can just build this exact same thing and give it to all your Minecraft mates and be done with it. And you can see in here the things that we're collecting that we don't want. However, there's some stuff in there that I did want to collect. Like I can see some gravel and some string along with the iron and ender pearls and, again, all the unstackable items that we're not collecting because this is completely full. So there's clearly some error that I want to debug. It may be that we're just getting too much gravel. It's entirely possible that the gravel, because of the bunching up of the cobwebs, is coming in at over like 30 items, and that just completely fills the hopper, so anything else is overload and comes in there. And that is how this farm works. This will be enough materials from what we need for quite a while, and as you can see, the item it's still producing from the single row of gold blocks that we loaded in. The minecart should be done and returned by this point, which you can see it is. So it's come back in here, and it's in the position where it's ready to load up with gold again. And that is our bartering farm with shininess. I really do like that. And lastly today, I wanted to show some of the changes that we've been making off camera to this area. I added 2 more rows of the villager breeder because you've seen me build this a couple of times and it's not super interesting. But now we have clerics, and this gives us basically everything we will ever need for redstone and for lapis, as well as for glowstone itself. There is a bottle of enchanting that you can get, but realistically, I've never found this to be a good source of experience. It's good in cases when you just need a little bit of a top off, like for mini games and such like that, but for the rest of it, not really. It's also okay for rotten flesh, but you need to carry so much to get a single emerald that it's just not worth it, especially in comparison to our farmers. We could rotate these a couple more, as we have before, by turning them into zombies and then curing them, but with all the farmers we have, it's just not worth it. As well as the other row here is masons. One of the items that I'm going to need a lot of as well is terracotta. And we went through here and redid them a number of times until we had all the different types, which is the signs here. The other thing that masons are a really good source of is not only bricks, but also of quartz blocks. And quartz blocks are what we made this sign up here, if you saw this in the quick thing. So eagle-eyed viewers noticed it on the pan. And I grew up in the Northeast, and this is basically what the subways looked like. You could always tell where the subways were by the big T sign, so I kind of took inspiration from that, since this was going to be the subway that people arrived to our concert hall with. The other thing that we did off camera was to complete the track that's going to feed the entirety of the rest of this concert hall. And now you can kind of see what the scale is going to be of both floors when we come up here. This is where the second floor of the concert hall is going to be once we complete the first floor, which is going to extend to about there or so. It won't go all the way back, but I have lit up this entire area because I got sick of dodging creepers and having them just appear from nowhere. So now that this is completely lit, that won't happen anymore. And the other thing finally was what I teased earlier on, is this is our collection system for the minecarts. What happens is anytime that a minecart comes here and it hits the cactus will break the minecart and it will turn into an item. There's a hopper right here which will collect it, and it will basically recirculate it into this system. So I don't need to go and collect the minecarts anymore or really add any others. As long as I don't need to send whatever that is, 7 more minecarts with villagers in it at a time, we're good. And generally I have not done that, even when building up the additional layers. So it was a little bit of effort, but it will definitely save me more time in the long run than it will cost me. And with that, we're going to call it an episode today. Once again, I wanted to thank you for choosing to spend your time on the adventure with me. I am OverHugs, and this has been Building Bread. As a reminder, I donate the profits that I make off of this to local food banks. So if you've enjoyed or otherwise gotten something valuable out of this today, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, tell a friend, or ring the bell. Together, we can help people that are in need. I hope you have the most wonderful of days, and I'll see you soon.